My parents and Lin Ch's parents were both doctors without borders. During a sudden outbreak of war abroad, my parents tragically lost their lives while shielding Lin Ch's parents and a group of innocent children as they evacuated. At the time, I was a sophomore in high school. Left utterly alone and without any support, I was taken in and cared for by Lin's family. Lin Chu has been my childhood playmate, my bamboo horse since we were little. Hes handsome and gentle with outstanding character and academic performance. From high school all the way through university, he always stood behind me taking care of my meals, my daily routines, and ensuring that I never had to endure any injustice. It was only natural that we ended up together. It always firmly believed that our love was born out of genuine affection for one another until that afternoon, when I overheard a conversation outside the study door that shattered every single one of my illusions. Uncle Lin and Dan Shu asked him with solemn expressions, "Do you like Zhang Zhang?" standing just outside the door. My heart was racing. I was certain He'd give me the answer. It'd been waiting for so long. But Lin Shu remained silent for a moment before replying in his usual calm, magnetic voice. "I'll protect her." At that very instant, it all became crystal clear to me. From childhood, my elders had taught me that when someone is asked whether they like you but doesn't offer a direct yes or no, that's the clearest possible rejection. He didn't love me. Being with me had never been out of any romantic attraction. It was simply his way of repaying my parents for saving his life. I left in a daze, hiding all my emotions deep within my heart. I didn't expose him on the spot, nor did I burst into tears or hurl accusations at him. Instead, I quietly waited for the day marking our 1-year anniversary. It made reservations at his favorite restaurant well in advance and carefully prepared a gift, wanting to give this self-deceptive relationship a dignified ending. But I never expected that he wouldn't even give me a chance to say goodbye properly. On our anniversary, just as we'd settled into the restaurant and the dishes hadn't even been fully served yet, Lin Shu received a phone call. His expression instantly turned frantic, and he hastily left without saying much more. With just the words, "There's an urgent matter with Qin Wen." He got up and left, leaving me all alone in the empty restaurant. Can we not aim? I know all too well. He was Lin Ch's college classmate and, in every size, the perfect match for him, the white moonlight destined for each other. Back then, they were widely regarded on campus as the golden couple. It was only because Ken Wen later went abroad to study that the two of them never ended up together. As I watched his resolute back as he walked away, I didn't chase after him, nor did I pick up the phone to ask any questions. In that moment, I finally came fully awake. This relationship, sustained only by kindness and gratitude, never should have begun in the first place. I took out my phone, calmly typed, "Let's break up," then blocked all of his contact information, completely severing any connection between us. I don't want a patronizing kind of protection, nor do I want companionship born out of obligation. My self-respect simply won't allow me to live in a false love. 3 months after the breakup, I completely gave myself over to indulgence. All my grievances, unfulfilled aspirations, and heartache, every single one found an outlet in my appetite. Fried chicken, barbecue, crayfish, hot pot, snail noodles, spicy hot pots. I devoured everything that Lin Chu had previously forbidden me to eat. I thought this would numb me, help me forget all the sadness, but the consequences of my unrestrained eating were disastrous. I gained a full 10 pounds, and then suddenly developed acute appendicitis, landing me urgently in the hospital for surgery. Lying on the operating table, while waiting for the anesthesia to take effect, I vaguely caught sight of a familiar figure. His features were strikingly handsome, the sharpness of his brows and eyes, his tall, upright posture, and he was dressed in a pristine white lab coat. It was none other than Lin Chu. He was the youngest attending physician in the hospital's gastroenterology department, and also my surgeon. Speaking in a cold, detached tone, he briefed the nurses on precautions, his gaze distant and aloof, as if I were just another ordinary patient with no connection to him at all. A wave of bitterness washed over me, but before I could dwell on it further, I slipped into unconsciousness. When I woke up again, my best friend, Kuji, was the only one in the hospital room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed with her legs crossed, filing her nails. As soon as she noticed it opened my eyes, she leaned over and cowled and helped but gossip. Your ex-boyfriend performed the surgery himself. How do you feel now? It was then that I finally realized what I'd seen on the operating table hadn't been a hallucination after all. The person who performed the surgery on me really was Lin Chu. I was both furious and mortified, and immediately started shouting that I wanted to transfer to another hospital. No sooner had I spoken than Lin Ch's cool, aloof voice rang out from the doorway. Where exactly do you think you'd like to go? I was so startled that I instantly closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. Every single breath in the room seemed to free. Hu Ji reacted lightning fast, quickly stepping in to smooth things over by saying I'd been talking in my sleep. But Lin just chuckled softly, his tone laced with a barely perceptible hint of amusement. Well then, once she finishes her dream, why don't we ask her if she farted? I was so furious that I shot up, glaring angrily in the direction Hed gone and yelling, "You're the one who farted." And as soon as I got worked up, I actually let out a long, melodious fart. The silence in the ward was suddenly so profound you could have heard a pin drop. Even more awkwardly, Uncle Lin and Dan Shu happened to push open the door at that very moment. Catching the whole scene in full view, Uncle Lin awkwardly rubbed his nose and tried to lighten the mood. John, after all, farts are just part of life. How could anyone possibly avoid them? Aunt Shu, on the other hand, didn't seem to notice a thing at all. She just looked at me with deep concern, holding a thermos and saying Shad made my favorite lotus root soup for me, but Lin Chu stopped her right there, explaining that after surgery I could only eat liquid food. As I watched the Lin family shower me with such tender care, my heart felt both warm and bittersweet. They treated me like their own daughter, yet here I was, still greedy for Lin Ch's love. This kindness they showed me was simply too heavy for me to bear, and I didn't want to use love to bind myself any longer. Not long after, Lin Shu walked into the ward again, holding a medical chart folder. I was secretly hiding half a banana to satisfy my craving, but he spotted me right away. Without saying a word, he tossed the banana into the trash and even took the time to clean the bin thoroughly, as if afraid to dig it out and eat it again. I felt both angry and helpless, but he just gently pulled back the covers to examine my wound, then asked softly, "Does it hurt?" After the anesthetic wore off, my wound burned fiercely with pain, yet I stubbornly insisted it doesn't hurt. He sighed softly, his tone laced with resignation. "Stop eating junk food already. You're not a kid anymore. You need to learn how to take care of your own body." I gazed out the window at the mottled shadows of trees, my heart filled with a complex mix of emotions. Lin Chu is exceptionally talented, handsome, from a well-to-Jew family, with impeccable values, and has grown up in an environment brimming with love. Hes never lacked admirers. If it hadn't been for the trust my parents placed in me at the cost of their own lives, he and I would have remained two entirely separate worlds, never crossing paths at all. When I first arrived at the Lin family, I hadn't yet truly understood the pain of losing my parents. It wasn't until I was bullied by classmates at school when their parents publicly scolded me, saying, "You were born with a mother but raised without one," that Lin Chu and Uncle Zhu and Dantai Zhu rushed to my side immediately, standing up for me without hesitation. It was only then that I truly realized I really had no home anymore. My suppressed emotions finally broke down completely, and I locked myself in my room crying for an entire month. It was Lin Chu who, even during the busiest times of his studies, would sit night after night by my door reading quietly. Whenever he heard me cry, Hed bring me water and hand me tissues when I stopped crying. Hed simply stay quietly by my side throughout that whole month. He never once left my side. Later, when Uncle Lin and Aunt Shu became busy with work, the responsibility of taking care of me fell squarely on Lin Ch's shoulders. From high school all the way through graduation, he was never once absent. The day I confessed my feelings to him, he was deeply engrossed in writing an academic paper. I sat on the sofa in his study, watching his earnest profile, and somehow found myself blurting out, "Lin Chu, would you like to be with me For a brief moment, the sound of his keyboard clicking paused, then came a soft hum from him. I walked over to him and suddenly noticed at the very end of his paper he quietly typed 3 neat lines of hum. His ears turned bright red. At that moment, I thought it was his unhidden affection, only now do I realize that it was merely his reluctant acceptance out of a sense of duty. During our year-long relationship, he was extremely strict with me, prohibiting me from eating junk food, forbidding me from wearing clothes that were too revealing, and insisting that I always inform him of my travel plans before going out. Yet, he rarely ever made physical contact with me. At first, I foolishly thought this was his way of showing respect and that his carefulness stemmed from how deeply he loved me. It wasn't until I overheard a conversation in the study that I finally woke up to the truth. It wasn't respect at all, it was simply that he didn't love me, which is why he deliberately kept his distance. After I was discharged from the hospital, Uncle Lin and Aunt Ju insisted on taking me back to the Lin family. My room had been clean, spotless, and everything such as the crystal ball Lin Chu gave me when I was a child, the trophy from my high school art competition, and even the doodles had casually sketched and then discarded was neatly arranged. Clearly, someone often cleans and takes good care of it. As I look at all this, it becomes even clearer to me. I can no longer let Lin Chu be bound by gratitude for my own selfish reasons for the rest of her life. Being family is far more enduring and far more honorable than being a romantic partner. I began deliberately keeping my distance from Lin Chu, treating him politely and distantly. I no longer acted spoiled or capricious as I used to, and even took the initiative to call him brother. When I said the words "thank you, brother," Lin Ch's expression froze for a brief moment, but I didn't turn around. I forced myself to believe that his kindness toward me was simply the care a big brother shows toward his little sister, not some special, exclusive favor reserved just for Mu. After working overtime for half a month straight, Lin Chu finally managed to leave work early, and he even made a special trip home to bring back my favorite fried crab from Baifeng Tang. Aunt Chu happily called out to me, and as I took the bag from him, I still said politely, "Thanks, bro." The atmosphere instantly grew silent. Pretending not to notice, I started chatting with Aunt Chu, deliberately ignoring the complicated look Lin Chu shot at me. A few days later, Lin's mother asked me to bring dinner to Lin Chu. When I arrived at the hospital, I happened to see Qinwen standing by his side. Qinwen had soft, wavy long hair and was wearing an intellectual trench coat. She looked elegant and graceful. The nurses nearby were whispering among themselves, gossiping that the two had rekindled their old romance and were truly a couple that everyone envied. A wave of bitterness washed over me, and I put down my lunchbox, ready to slip away quietly, only to be stopped by Lin Chu. He didn't introduce us to Qinwen, so I had no choice but to take the initiative and break the awkward silence in his sister. As soon as the words left my mouth, I could clearly feel Lin Ch's gaze suddenly grow cold. But I didn't want to linger any longer, so I turned around and walked out of the hospital without looking back. The streets in early autumn carried a hint of melancholy, perfectly mirroring my mood at the time. I strolled slowly along the old street and happened to run into Zhu Qi, a senior from my university days. Now HES preparing to make an animated film, and after seeing my comics, he sincerely invited me to join his team as an illustrator. This was a wonderful opportunity for me, so I smiled and accepted without hesitation, hoping that by throwing myself into this busy work, I could finally put that failed relationship completely behind me. But as soon as I turned my head, I saw Lin Chu standing not far away with a cold expression, Qinwen following closely behind him. Without pausing for a moment, I walked straight into the cafe on the street corner accompanied by Zhu Qi. Back at the Lin family's home, Lin's mother took my hand and asked me what plans I had for the future. Her words, though subtle, clearly implied that Lin Chu was willing to spend his entire life taking care of me, urging me to feel at ease and stay with the Lin family. I quickly interrupted her, deliberately mentioning Lin Ch's relationship with Qinwen, asking her not to worry any more about matters between him and me. I knew very well that there was no longer any possibility between Lin Shu and me. I drove to the handmade shop to pick up the wedding gift it prepared for my best friend Kuji. As I passed by a jewelry store, I saw In Shu and Chinwen standing side by side at the counter again, both of them bent over, carefully selecting jewelry. The scene was strikingly perfect, almost painfully harmonious. I stood on the roadside watching silently for a long time. A bitter ache welled up in my chest, relentless and unrelenting. Yet all I could do was tell myself that someday I'd get used to life without him and that I'd finally let go completely of this relationship that should never have begun. I've never once regretted taking the initiative to break up. Lin Shu is wonderful, gentle, strong, and beautiful, but the one thing he just couldn't bring himself to do was love me. And that's enough. I can accept that he doesn't love me, but I can't accept living a life of pretense, relying on kindness and pity to get by for the rest of my life. My parents taught me kindness and self-minus respect with their very lives, and I can't let down the hope they've sacrificed their lives to nurture. Love should be a willing, neutral journey, never a reluctant bond born out of obligation. Since what he has ever given me wasn't love at all, but merely a guardian's duty born of gratitude, I'll take the initiative to let go, returning my affection to the sea of people. I'll peacefully remain Lin's daughter and Lin Ch's younger sister, forever cherished by them, and for the rest of my life, I'll never again feel drawn to him. This relationship, which began with kindness, is now being brought to an end by my own hand. Let him go, and let myself go as well. From now on, we'll be relatives, we'll be family, but we'll never again be lovers. I'll carry on living well, striving to shine brightly, fulfilling my parents' hopes and dreams. Go and find the love that truly belongs to me, love of mutual commitment, rather than living under someone else's expectations, compromising myself, or holding others back.